The summer night warmed up the surrounding nature to a pleasant warmth. Emily, Jake, Luke, Sarah, and Emily's friends decided to spend the weekend in nature and chose a remote spot in the national park for camping. They arrived late in the evening, as the sun was already setting over the horizon, and quickly set up their tents at the edge of the forest. Around the campfire, the friends talked, laughed, and enjoyed the nighttime atmosphere. However, as night fell, the surrounding forest became quieter and darker. The sounds of nature gradually faded away and there was a strange sense of tension in the air, as if something incomprehensible was watching them from the darkness. Sarah began to notice strange shadows flashing among the trees. She silently brushed the thought away, deciding she was just imagining it. But as she moved away from the fire to take a phone call, she felt something watching her. Glancing over her shoulder, she saw the silhouette of a figure disappearing among the trees. "Is someone out there?" she asked defiantly, but there was no response. Sarah felt a shiver inside her and quickly returned to the fire, trying to calm herself down. Slowly, they began to notice something strange in the surrounding forest. The rustles in the leaves and the light singing of the wind turned into something more somber. The sounds became more distinct, began to separate into something more indefinable, whispering, knocking, creaking. The friends exchanged wordless glances, and the tension in the air became almost palpable. When they decided to go to bed, the situation around them only worsened. Several times they heard strange sounds, as if footsteps were approaching their tents, but when one of them went outside, there was nothing around. In the middle of the night, Jake woke up to something moving outside his tent. He looked out the small window and saw the silhouette of a figure standing farther away from the fire, in the darkness. Fear overwhelmed him and he decided not to alarm his friends so as not to scare them. He quietly stepped out of the tent and, holding his breath, tried to discern who was standing in the darkness. The figure was too blurry to determine who it was. But then he heard a whisper. They were words that could barely be made out, as if a rushing wind carried them from far away. "Help, go away," they were barely audible words that echoed through the silence of the night. Jake felt the hair on his arms stand up. He noted a strange vibration in the air and decided to go back to the tent. In the morning, he told the others what he had seen and heard. Together they decided to check the forest during the day to make sure no one needed help or was lost. However, when they returned to the spot where Jake had seen that figure, there was no sign or trace of anyone. Although they couldn't explain what had happened, they decided to pack up and leave the place. Time in the forest seemed unusual, as if it had its own flow, different from the usual. They packed their tents and headed away from the place, eager to leave behind them the mysterious sounds and shadows of the night. But that night remained in their memories, reminding them that nature has its own secrets that are sometimes better left undiscovered. The friends' journey continued until sunset the next day. They found a small clearing a few kilometers from where they had spent the night. The sun was slowly sinking below the horizon, illuminating the surrounding forest with orange and pink rays. The friends decided to camp here, having long forgotten the mysterious sounds and figures of the night. The campfire flared up again, and cheerful conversation began to fill the evening atmosphere. However, even amidst the laughter and stories, seemingly trivial after the night's adventures, none of the friends could completely banish that mysterious experience from their minds. Later that evening, as they gathered around the campfire, they noticed that the forest was beginning to take on a distinctive character. The shadows were becoming thicker, and the sounds of nature that had seemed so natural now sounded as if in response to their presence. Again there was something strange in the air. Sarah, always more susceptible to the mysterious, noticed how the branches of the trees began to move in defiance of the wind. She looked up and saw something that looked like darkness hanging over them. "Can you see it?" she asked quietly, pointing upward. The friends looked up and saw that the branches formed some strange shadow weaving through the air. An unknown creature, as if composed of night, began to slowly descend into the clearing. It was a shadow, but it had a shape like something alive. The friends stood up and watched as the shadow continuously changed its shape, taking on the outline of something indefinable. It's the shadow from last night," whispered Sarah, while the others watched, unable to look away. The shadow seemed to be covered in a mysterious light, and it was as if it was trying to tell them something. The mysterious light began to form images of the same ghosts they had seen last night. A man in ancient clothing stood out among them, one who whispered calling words to them. It was as if the creature from the shadows was trying to convey some message to them. "Go away," came a barely audible voice. "Hidden in this forest are souls lost to time. Do not awaken them again." The friends felt the shadow calling out to them, warning them. But instead of the fear they had felt last night, compassion rang in their hearts. They realized that their presence was evoking the dark memories of the past, awakening the souls trapped in this forest. The creature from the shadows slowly began to rise into the air, and its images gradually dissolved into the night's darkness. The friends remained standing, looking up into the sky, as if trying to understand all the mysteries hidden in the forest begins to pulse quietly. The shadows dissolve and the whispers fade away as if carried away by the wind. Luke sees the images of the past one last time, thanking them for their help. Then they disappear, as if carried away by an invisible force into another dimension. The forest remains quiet. The group left in the clearing feels time begin to flow again in its normal course. The shadow they saw has disappeared and the forest has returned to its natural state. Luke and his friends look at each other, realizing that they were able to do something more than just tell a mysterious story. They had become a link between the past and the present, helped those souls that had been wandering for an eternity, to find peace. Luke feels his heart fill with a sense of fulfillment and gratitude. He realizes that this experience will change their lives forever. The next morning, the group decides to leave the forest and return to the world of everyday life. After their adventure, the nature around them seems especially alive and harmonious. The forest seemed to thank them for their help, and their journey became part of the mystery of this corner of nature. The friends return to their ordinary lives, but their souls remain connected to what happened. They know that there are things beyond our understanding and moments when the spirit world intersects with ours. Time passes, and the friends continue their concerns, but now with a new respect for the natural world around them. Sometimes they remember that night in the woods, hearing the whisper of the wind, seeing a shadow flashed in their memories. However, this does not evoke fear for them now, but rather a sense of connection to a world that remains mysterious and magical. Luke, especially, stays with those thoughts. He begins to study the mystical aspects of nature, seeking to understand the deep connection between the world of the living and that which lies beyond the visible. His research leads him to ancient legends and magical practices, opening new horizons in his understanding of nature. He decides to share his discoveries with the rest of his friends and invites them to join his research. Together they study ancient texts, commune with sages and shamans, seeking to decipher the secrets that remained unsolved in that mysterious forest. With each new discovery, they feel their connection to the mysterious world grow deeper. They witness that beyond our visible world are hidden secrets and powers that ordinary people don't even suspect. Soon, the friends realize that their adventures in that forest were only the beginning. They discover new facets of their consciousness, dive into the world of energies and spiritual interactions. And although the road to understanding these mysteries is still long, they know that each step brings them closer to understanding the great script of life, which unfolds before them like a book with boundless pages of mysteries and possibilities.